tell us
Absolutely.
your journey with your eating disorder.
So I think with me, my story is that when I was growing up, I was the little sunshine girl. I was the kid who was confident on stage, singing and dancing. I played sports. I was very opinionated. I grew up with a mother who told me that what I said was very important. I was beautiful, but I was smart, and my opinion meant something, and I had a voice and a right to use it. So there was no situation that intimidated me. There was nothing that I felt I couldn't do. I had big dreams, and I had every hope and expectation of achieving those dreams. And then, unfortunately, my whole life changed when I was 17 years old. And my brother, who had become the man of the house when my father left when I was 10, he was just the perfect big brother, protective and loving and supportive. And he got sick when I was 17 and he was 21. And he passed away. And my whole life changed completely. I changed. And I always say that Billy's death gave birth to my eating disorder because this once confident kid suddenly questioned her place in the world. And there were two parts of this. There's the part where you feel like, especially as a teenager, all of a sudden my life felt completely out of control. I had no control over anything. Here, this healthy, young hero to me had gotten sick and died. So I felt like anything bad can happen. So the one thing I felt I could control was my body. And that's a very common theme with eating disorders. So I felt I could control how much exercise I did or didn't do. I could control what I ate or didn't eat. So it gave me this false sense of control because really you learn very quickly that once you start with an eating disorder, you lose control. It takes over completely. The other part of the disorder is that I felt that he was such an incredible human being and I didn't feel like I was nearly as good enough as he was. And I felt guilty for still being here. So I felt if I was gonna take this space on this earth that really was meant for him, I couldn't just be average. I had to really earn it. I had to be spectacular. But I didn't feel special. And so I thought, okay, if I can't be smart enough or funny enough or interesting enough or talented enough, maybe I can be pretty enough. And to be at 17, I thought that meant skinny enough. Right. So that's when I started this whole journey into this eating disorder. And I really used to say I could be the poster child because I dealt with the anorexia part of it, where I was starving myself. I dealt with over-exercising, where I would go to the gym at 2 o'clock in the morning and not sleep for days and be over-exercising. I did the overeating, where I would literally eat from the moment I got up until the moment I went to bed. And there were times as a mom when I couldn't tuck my kids in at night because I was either too weak from starving myself or too full from binging. And it took until my 30s for me to go into recovery and realize that even though I had given up on myself, I had these 2 little boys that deserved a mother that was there for them, physically and psychologically and emotionally. And I went into recovery and got my life back. And once I did that, I saw that eating disorders now at 17, I'd be considered a senior citizen with it, whereas kids 5 years old are struggling, girls and boys. And I felt the need to do something about it. So I created a program where I go to schools and I talk to kids as young as the 1st grade. I speak with parents, I speak with social workers, I speak with athletes. It's men, women, kids. I try to speak, because we're all affected by it. Absolutely. So it's my goal now to save people from the trauma that I couldn't avoid.
Right. The story, it doesn't matter how many times I've heard it now, it's still so powerful. Thank you for sharing so authentically and raw. I mean, I really think, I feel that when you share that. I really want to delve into the fact that an eating disorder isn't about the food.
Right.
And it does really penetrate every aspect of who you are as a person. And today we really want to talk about the impact on your mental health. Through your eating disorder, what was it like to feel and inside your mind and your mental health? What was that journey like, apart from the physical realities of what you were also experiencing?
Well, I think that's the main thing, is that people don't realize that eating disorders are a mental health issue.
Yes.
That when somebody is starving themselves and people say, just eat, or somebody's binging and they say, just don't eat. Really? Is that? I never thought of that.
Simple.
We just can't. It's not a vanity thing. I would say it's a sanity thing. Right. Not that I'm crazy because I had it, but just that it was something I could not control. I would often tell parents, it's like when you looking through a carnival mirror, you know, when you're at the carnival and the mirrors distort you. So you can see somebody who looks fantastic, but the way we see ourselves is completely distorted, but we really are seeing that. Right. And that's what's so hard for people to understand. It's because somebody who loves somebody who's dealing with an eating disorder, they're looking at them with a logical, clear mind, but we don't have that. My brain doesn't work like somebody else's does. So I'm not physically seeing myself the way other people do. That's a mental health issue. And the problem too, there's so much guilt attached to it. So it's not just a physical thing. I always say food is the weapon I used to hurt myself, whether I was starving myself with it or beating myself up by binging it. It was the weapon. But the fact that I was hurting myself, that comes from a mental health issue. And it's so difficult because it's also the type of thing that brings, I felt, and I've heard this from kids that I deal with, there's such a guilt factor because it's a type of thing, because it seems like a physical thing, it seems like, we're being vain. There were so many times when you're already feeling horrible about yourself. And I've missed job interviews, I missed friends' weddings, I've missed big things because I didn't feel like I looked good enough to go. I wanted to go, and it wasn't me being vain. I really could not get myself to go. Then you feel guilty because you hear about some, well, no, there's that, but then you see something in the news and I think there's starving people, there's a hurricane that happened, there's war going on, and here I am devastated because I gained 5 pounds. What a horrible person I am for caring about that when there's people who have cancer and there's people who are dealing with horrible things. And so there's the issue that I'm dealing with, and then there's the guilt over feeling a horrible person because I have this issue. And that's when people have to realize, I had to realize and be kinder to myself going, I didn't choose this. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault. It's the same as having another kind of disease. It's not my fault. I don't have the control over having it. I did learn that I do have the control whether or not to go into recovery. And that's how we get our control back, is getting help. And there is help to get, but it's not my fault I have it, but it was up to me to make the decision to get help for it. And there's a lot of power. When I went into recovery, there was a minute when I felt guilty because I was going to be away from my kids during the day, 3 times a day to go into recovery. And very quickly I realized, no, I feel proud. Like, I'm doing something. When I get out of here, I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to be the mother that I want to be and have the life that I want to have. So it becomes empowering.